Yo, good morning. Welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB Strategy Show / live before lock. Got a good one today. 7-game early slate. 12:35 is the first game that gets started. That's Colorado, Pittsburgh. And then the last game on this slate is 3:05. So not bad. Not a bad window. I'll say this much, though. When is DraftKings going to learn? Like, these contests on these early slates fill up quick. The main contest, the main relay throw was $25K to first. It filled 2.5 hours before the slate even begins. I don't understand it. I don't. You look at some of these other contests, like they're gonna fill the overflow contest with an hour and a half before lock too. It's an odd one. I know, Josh. It filled, a bunch of them filled already. I tried to enter it and it said error. I was like, that's odd. And I looked down and it was filled. But that's all right. We got plenty of other stuff to dive into. There's still some good contests out there. Don't get me wrong. So we'll make sure to break everything down nice and easy for us today. And of course, if you don't mind, take a second this fine morning, atone for your sins. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Goes a long way. Appreciate you guys for that. Which was the mini max? Which one? I entered one of them, and then what's the four seamer, the 20 max $4. It felt like the mini max was small, but of course it was. They could, on this main slate, they could easily run like a 20K mini max. I don't see how that wouldn't fill. You know, you're filling the relay throw 25K up top 2.5 hours before the first game starts. It's crazy. Player hated. Degenerates wake up early in the morning. The problem is, though, like 2.5 hours, I didn't even consider that it would be full, especially on a day, right, where you have the PGA Championship going too. I'm like, people are probably, paying attention to golf, and then they'll check that out a little bit later. But not the case. Anyway, still a good slate. I actually think some really interesting pitching and a few guys that might actually be underpriced. I see a lot of chatter already about Chase Dollander. I get it. I do. I understand it. It's not the worst matchup either. The guy's had a few really, really good starts this year. Sorry, Chase Dollander. I always get that wrong. It's Dollander, right? I always call him like a dollar, which I feel it should be. The first 5 letters of his last name, of his surname, are Dalla. Put an R, it's Dollander. Dollander. But I guess Chase Dollander. My point being, the guy looks semi-decent today, so we'll get into it. We'll take a look at the tools and get it going. AA stacking against Dollander, I don't think that's the worst idea either. By the way, can I just say, when we did this show yesterday, and we were like, yeah, man, I don't know. It's just jamming the top guys, Dylan Cease, Shohei Ohtani, and Mizorowski. Well, that ended up being pretty good. Mind you, I built that lineup. Remember, we built that, for those of you who stuck around to the end, we built that lineup in the single lineup Sims. It was the Miami stack with Mizorowski and Dylan Cease. It finished, I put it in the relay or the main contest. I think it finished 50th. So it had a little bit of a shot there. It had a bit of a run. It was a 5-man Miami stack with a couple A's bats and 2 10K pitchers. I had a feeling that lineup was going to do well. Granted, it wasn't anything like game changing. It was $100 payout, but still, that lineup had legs from the beginning, man. Cease dominated, Mizorowski dominated, Ohtani dominated. McCullers actually looked really good early on, scuffled a bit towards the end, but yeah, man, that was a good one. That was good. So let's go see what happens. Austin Dollander getting rocked. Look at him versus lefties, then look at the Pirates lineup. He might, or he might not. So let's take a look. There's a lot to talk about today. A lot. Oh, you know what? They did have a $25. I'm a dumbass. I entered PGA and didn't opt into that. That sucks. Wins out to right in Pittsburgh. Yep. There's that. So I I guess it's time to dive in. I can pull up the Sims here. Let's see where we're going on this one. Got 150 lineups favored. I'll zoom in a little bit for you guys here. Make it easier on the eyes. Before we dive into the exposures, though, obviously, obviously the one thing, I mean, look, Miz still was awesome, though. What did he have? 7 like scoreless or 1-run innings with 10 strikeouts. You're not going to kick him out of bed for eating crackers. It's a dumb saying, but I love it. It's a real saying, too. So here's the thing. Chase Burns at home against Washington. Guy's got elite strikeout stuff. You have Nolan McLean against Detroit. I'm just going down the list here from top to bottom as far as salaries go. So you have those 3 guys, okay, that are, and Kyle Harrison, they're all 8,800 plus. All right. Actually, I'll pull up the data hub here for you guys and go to salary. Oh, hold on. We're going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it another way. Projection is greater than 1. I guess that didn't work, huh? Oh, end. There we go. Okay, here we go. See, we can make this work. So here's what we've got going on for today. Projected fantasy points. I'm sorting by salary. Sorry. Chase Burns, Nolan McLean, Kyle Harrison, Foster Griffin, Michael McGreevy, who's actually been decent, but he's 8K. Kyler Montero, Mike Burrows, Luis Castillo's down to 7K, which is actually pretty crazy, is it not? Castillo, who would have thought this guy is 7K now? He has really struggled. I don't think he's had one quality performance, literally, from a fantasy perspective, all season long. It was his first start. It was all the way back in March. It's almost 2 months ago. Chase Dollander, $6,500. Braxton Garrett. And then in the same game as the Dollander spot, Carmen Majinski is actually kind of interesting to me. Maybe I'm off base here. He's the probable long relief guy from what I saw. He's not expected to start this game, but he should be getting that bulk relief spot. He's had a couple solid games this year. You're at PNC Park today, and I understand that winds are blowing out there, but also it's not really the same impact that you get at some of these other parks, right? Like the same as a Wrigley or something like that. Winds should not be treated the same. By the way, someone mentioned right field. It's blowing out to left center field, not right field. But 54 degrees. It's not a hot day there. Again, we could talk about weather. We can talk about how the wind is going to impact these guys, this and that. Play it however you want. But at the end of the day, this game still has a 7.5 run total. Pittsburgh's at 4.4 and Colorado is at 3.3, which is even crazier. So, I guess if you want to play the wind game here, that's fine, but it doesn't seem to be having really any legitimate impact on the total of this game. And if you don't think Vegas, I say Vegas, but if you don't think the books are taking the wind and the weather and all of that into consideration and baking that into the numbers, come on now. We clearly know they are. Cincinnati's got some winds blowing out, 63 degrees. Again, not a huge deal. 7.5 run total there. You got Griffin, you got Chase Burns, decent pitching matchup. 7 run total at Citi Field. 7 run total with Montero and Nolan McLean. These games, most of them have low totals. 8 run total in Milwaukee and San Diego, 8.5 between the Twins and Marlins. Mariners and Houston, that's a little different. Mike Burrows on the mound and Luis Castillo, who hasn't been good. That's a 9 run total in that game. And then finally, St. Louis and the Athletics, 9.5. Jacob Lopez and McGreevy. So we're gonna have to see what the tools are like here, and I think it's reasonable to start there. But it does, by the way, feel like Castillo's toast. It does. Bad weather in New York. Yeah, it looks. So here's the thing. Here's why I don't really worry about weather in these spots. At least not too much. It does look like that game is going to have, it looks like probably a delay. But if it's a 1 o'clock start, then you have all day to play this game. I don't think. Another thing to consider too, this is a interleague game. So they're not, this is the last game they play against each other, right? Let me make sure. Yeah. The Tigers are back in Detroit tomorrow. This isn't just like an easy Mets-Phillies makeup game. It's a 110 game between two teams that aren't in the same conference, that don't play each other often. To make a game up like this wouldn't be easy. You can't do it tomorrow. So when are you going to squeeze that game in? They're going to do everything they can to get this game in. And my assumption is that they play and it ends up being fine. So just throwing that out there. And I'll look now to see the radar and everything. Doesn't even look that bad. They'd probably play through some rain, honestly. Doesn't even look bad. I don't know. It looks like they'll get popped a little bit early. And then everything clears out to the east. Yeah. Probably a delay, but yeah. What did I say? Conference? I said league the first time, didn't I? If I switched to conference, well, forgive me. I'm pretty sure I said league the first time. I did. I know I did. But yeah, I don't really think that's a big issue. So let's take a look at our exposures, dive into this one. By the way, shout out to our people from yesterday. Red Skittles, who's always in here, took down the Minimax. Not a duplicate post, he says, because he did it like a week ago. Took down the Minimax again using the stochastic Sims. Shout out to Laffy for doing the strategy show. Hey, thanks, man. Teaching us how to use the Sims. Cosmic. Shout out to Laffy, Emac, and the rest of the crew helping me figure out MLB DFS. Third in the solo shot. And how about Dawn? She took down the rally cap. She just won $50K 2 weeks ago. $20K. Marks my second largest DFS win ever. Comes less than a month after my biggest takedown. Trusting the process, leaning on the stochastic is paying off massively right now. Let's keep building. So shout out to all of our people here. Congratulations. You absolutely love to see it. All right, let's dive in. Here are our exposures for today. And we start with Chase Burns. I don't think anyone's going to be shocked by this. I mean, you got Chase Burns going up against Washington. Pretty good spot, honestly. 3.7 run implied total. You're going to get quality strikeout stuff there from Chase Burns. We already know that this guy, ever since he came up, has been mowing teams down. And, like last year as a rookie, I still remember his first start was against the Yankees and he struck out like 7 of his first 8 batters, ended up faltering a bit late, but he had a 36% K rate last year, 26% this year. But honestly, wouldn't be surprised to see it creep up. I mean, I would think that Chase Burns is in a position to only get better. Honestly, he's got great stuff. He is pitching deep into games too. He's not one of these young pitchers. Remember I was talking about Dylan Cease yesterday? The one massive advantage with that guy is just throw a ton of pitches, work deep into games. He goes 7 innings, throws 99 pitches again. Chase Burns has actually been semi-efficient. Like 6 innings, 87 pitches, 7 innings, 94 pitches, 6 innings, 97. I love seeing that from a young guy that racks up strikeouts, because a lot of times those are the type of guys that can labor and miss spots and they end up not getting out of the 5th inning because they're 100 pitches deep. You don't have that with him today. And I think that's pretty damn helpful. Now, if you start looking at what some of these other teams have here and what we're going up against, you got Washington against right-handers this year. They haven't been that bad. They're basically middle of the league. And I think from a power perspective, they're actually above average. They're hitting for power against righties this year, no doubt. They're striking out at one of the lower clips in the league. So on paper, it's not the best matchup if you're Chase Burns. On the other hand, $9,800 on a 7-game early slate where pitching isn't all that great to begin with. And I'll go one further for you here. If you go in the strikeouts over on the odd shop or odd screen, and you look at a guy like Chase Burns today, you've got him at 6.5 with no real juice to the under whatsoever. So he's going to have probably the highest K rate or K prop on this slate. Like McLean's at 6.5, but actually McLean's a little bit higher. Yeah, they're both at 6.5. McLean's a little higher. But I'm not really sure anyone else is going to come all that close to him. A lot of 4.5s here, 5.5s. Castillo somehow still at 5.5. But yeah, Burns at 6.5, Harrison at 5.5. Luzardo's not on the slate. Sale's not on the slate. A lot of these other guys with these high strikeout props, they're not even on the slate. So a lot of it, Emmett Sheehan's not on the slate as well. So from a K prop perspective, who is it today? Pretty simple. Chase Burns, Nolan McLean, the two guys we're getting the most of. Now, what's also going to get a little weird here is there's a massive drop-off from an exposure standpoint. Look at this. So if you look at the exposures we have, from a pricing standpoint, Chase Burns and Nolan McLean are two guys that we're getting 50+% of, both of them. And I'm not running any uniques. We can do it later in the show, see if we can flatten some things out a little bit. But if you have that spot right there, Burns and McLean, and then Zebby Matthews. This guy's been up and down from AAA for a bit now. Got recalled from AAA right now. And actually multiple guys on this slate, multiple pitchers recalled from AAA to pitch today. I mean, well, Roger, Zebby been getting beat up in AAA. I'd rather Garrett. Yeah, I know. But guess what? Trevor McDonald was getting beat up at AAA, went out there and had a crazy game. Zebby Matthews is not that bad. I'm not saying he's that good either, but I'm not really sure that he's a $6,500 or $6,200 pitcher. I mean, look, to be fair, last year in almost 80 innings pitched with Minnesota, he had a 25% K rate, which isn't bad. But if I recall correctly, the one thing about him that could be quite alarming was there were times where he just didn't have it. I mean, at all. But look at his game logs from last year. He pitched reasonably deep into a ton of these games, hovering around that, 6-7 strikeout range each time out. I'm not saying that Zebby Matthews is on the same level or even remotely close to the same level as a guy like Burns or McLean. What I'm saying is that at 6,200, he probably is worth considering. I know Miami went out, dropped 9 runs yesterday against Simeon Woods Richardson, which is no surprise because he's terrible. But also, Miami today has a 4.2 run total. 4.2 run total. So it's not high. It's one of the lower marks on this slate, as a matter of fact. Detroit's lower, Colorado's lower, Washington's lower, and San Diego's lower. So, yeah, exactly. He does have good strikeout stuff when he's on. This isn't me dying on the Zebby Matthews hill. What I'm saying is, at that price point against Miami, I don't think it's that scary of a matchup, honestly. And he can't be like, oh, well, Miami had a good game yesterday. Okay, yeah, they play 162 games. Who cares? What you could say about Miami is, they don't have one of the highest K rates in the league, but they also don't hit for any power at all. They're bottom 5, I think, in bottom 5 in ISO against righties this year. 319 WOBA. Again, it's middle of the road. WRC plus for Miami this season sitting at, where are they? Middle, right? 15th, again, 101. They don't walk at a high clip. Yeah, exactly, Extract Snipe. Exactly. Lance is a prime example. Zebby can do what Lance did. Lance yesterday was fine. Could have been much better, if you didn't have guys like Ohtani, Mizrowski, and Cease all just go nuclear. And we knew that could happen. The Sims were jamming those guys for us yesterday. Like, remember, we ran the Sims and we had, what do we have? Like 90% Mizrowski, 50% Ohtani, 40% Cease, something ridiculous. Whatever it was 175% of our lineups had they took up 175%. which is, real close to that 200% on a 2-pitcher site. So I don't know. I would say that you can lean into this data, and whether you love it or not, the question becomes, who do you want to go elsewhere? We were getting more Chase Dollander earlier in the day when I ran the Sims. With the update, we're getting more Zebby Matthews. He has a 4.5K prop. Oddly enough, though, if you can see this, only on Prize Picks. Are his K props not up anywhere else? Honestly, for an earlier game, I would think they would be up already, but apparently they're not. Let me see. I'll just pull up a random book and see if he has any K props up. He does. Okay, so Bet365 4.5K prop minus 110. That's fine. At 6,200, that's not that bad at all. I would assume that FanDuel is going to be in the same range here as well. And yeah, I do care about this stuff. It's meaningful. If we can see where these guys are sitting from a projection standpoint, of course, all of the props and the odds and stuff are baked into the projections, but still, this is important. And let's see. Does FanDuel have it? 4.5 minus 124 to the over. So juice to the over. The under 4.5 on FanDuel is actually plus money. So I get it. What's Dollander's prop? And I don't actually disagree with you guys that, you could look toward, he's at 5.5. Wow. Chase Dollander at 5.5. I don't disagree with you guys that you could look into stacking some Pittsburgh today against Dollander, possibly even some Miami, because you don't really know what Zebby Matthews is going to give you. I'm also not convinced that Matthews is only going to be 8% owned. To me, that seems a little bit low, right? Thomas signed up last night using the code. Excited to work with it. Hell yeah, man. Good. Love to hear it. Yeah, we had a lot of people jump in for that one. I actually looked this morning. It was a good one. We always have good stuff going on, though. Anyone that wants to jump in, you know how you can do it. MLB Strategy is the code. Link in the description, or just use that when you check out. 15% off everything, okay? Whether it's a week of MLB or a month, core or max, whether it's all access for all 6 sports that are happening right now, PGA, UFC, MLB, NHL, NBA, NASCAR. We got Sims and tools for all of them. 15% off. That's a big discount. So you know how to do it. Come check it out. Join the Discord. Jump on in. It's been a good year. But yeah, man. And like I said, join that Discord if you haven't yet. There's a lot of people in there that'll be happy to help you out if you have questions with any of these tools. But link down below, or just use MLB Strategy. Same thing with the prop tools. If you wanted to use the prop tools, which are awesome, I've had great success with them. That same code will get you the 15% off. Are there pitchers that we're not getting to that you guys want to get to? I'll give you one. I don't think Majinski's that crazy of an option today against Colorado. I don't. He's actually shown some upside. He's going to be a long relief guy today, which I guess kind of dampens the upside. But hell, we've seen Chase Dollander go out there and have some crazy games as a long relief guy. And he's done so in Coors as well. Like, he's gone out there and had some good games at Coors. So it's not like he's only been effective outside of Coors. I don't know. We're getting 20% of him. I'm fine with it. I bet we do get some Pittsburgh on the other side. I haven't looked at our stacks yet, but we're going to pull it up right now. But yeah, I mean, last year, Dollander threw under 100 pitches, or under 100 innings, and had a 19% K rate. It was his first year at the major league level. He walked 11% of batters. This year he's at 26%, and the walk rate's down to 9%. Has he been a little lucky? Probably. He has an 81% strand rate, a 269 BABIP. Sure. But his FIP is way down. Like, you look at some of these other numbers, barrel rate is, okay. 52% ground ball rate. That's solid. These are the type of numbers you actually want to see from these guys. 12.5% swinging strike rate. 28% called plus swinging strike rate. It's a damn good number. That's a good number, man. He's actually been good. 28% called plus swinging is pretty good, I've got to say. So yeah, I agree with you guys that if you're talking about whether, platoon splits and all of that stuff, the fact that lefties this year, and you can see it right here, the fact that lefties have done some damage to him, 5.66 xFIP here. He's been far superior against righties. His strikeout rate against lefties is much lower than it is against righties. So that's another thing to consider. It does make Pittsburgh look decent. It absolutely does. I'm not opposed to it. I don't really care much about the wind blowing out there. It's still PNC Park. It's still not a favorable park. Of course, O'Neal Cruz, it doesn't matter where that guy's playing. But, you're talking about the first four batters, including the switch hitting Brian Reynolds, being lefties in this lineup. That's a good amount. 6 batters, six of 9 are lefties. I don't hate where you guys are going with this one at all. But I don't think Dollander's out of play either. I don't think you just entirely ignore him as a result. But I like both sides of this one. Far fewer ground balls against lefties too. Hard hit rate's actually the same. And believe it or not, he's not even allowing that much more power against lefties. I think he's actually allowing less power against lefties. He is. He's faced fewer of them though. 16, but still he's allowed fewer home runs, 2 fewer doubles. You get the point. Should we take a look at stacks, or do we go a little bit deeper into the pitching here? Would love to know where you guys think as well. 1-1-2-2. I'd have a lot more Pirates if they weren't if they weren't so expensive. It's another thing you have to consider on any slate, right? Like if you're paying a premium for these guys, then they're going to be more difficult to get to, especially if you're paying up for Chase Burns and Nolan McLean. I'll say this much though. If you're getting to a Zebby Matthews at 6,200, it becomes a little bit easier, right? It becomes easier to get to Brandon Lau, and O'Neal Cruz. Ryan O'Hearn's played pretty well. So yeah, it does. Mike Burrows, that's a tough spot for me to want to get to Burrows today. Because, 7,200 is not the worst price point. He does have some strikeout stuff. There's no doubt about it. But I was a little bit surprised, a little bit alarmed, I should say, to see that Seattle has a 4.8 run implied total. And that Mike Burrows is someone who has been flashing pretty decent strikeout upside. 5.5 K prop today, not bad. But if you look at his earned run prop to 2.5 with the overjuiced, that's surprising. I wouldn't have anticipated that being the case because he has been okay. So 7,200, I think, is probably a reasonable price point. He's been pitching relatively deep into the games. Like he's gone 90 plus pitches in 3 straight. You don't have any limitations. There's no restriction. But he's just not popping, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you'd think some of these props would look better on him. We're only getting 1%. He's 10% owned. Jacob Lopez is a guy I can't imagine we get much of. Same goes for Griffin Canning. Braxton Garrett being another guy where it's just like, all right, if I'm playing Braxton Garrett, who they just recalled from AAA, who am I getting away from in order to play Braxton Garrett? That makes the conversation a little bit more difficult. We're getting 2% of him. Kyle Harrison, not the best matchup, not the worst matchup, but nobody's jumping up and down to play $8,800 Kyle Harrison. But I tell you, this guy, Kyle Harrison this season, it feels like he's taken a step forward for sure. You look at him too, because if you remember last year for Kyle Harrison, the strikeout stuff wasn't bad, but this year, 29%. Like he's punched out 29% of bats, and he's got all of these 7% barrel rate, There's a lot of good stuff happening with him. And, you know, who would have thought this is the case, too? And when you talk about the fact that he was in San Francisco, like San Francisco is as good as it gets, and he's just been better this year. So 8,800 is a bit of a hefty price point, but dude, 14% swinging strike rate this year. The stuff on Kyle Harrison's been good. The only other thing I'd point out, though, is that remember we were talking yesterday about that San Diego team and how like they actually are striking out a lot against righties, and they have not been good at all against right-handed pitching this year, which is entirely true. We ran through the numbers yesterday. They've been no good against righties. A big step back from previous seasons. Even against lefties this season, look at this. 78%, 78 WRC plus, and a 23.5% K rate. Like they're essentially top 10 in strikeouts this year against lefties too. I tell you, this actually makes me more interested in Kyle Harrison if his ownership is going to be significantly lower than some of these other guys. Let me see what his ownership's 14%. McLean and Chase Burns are at 44%. I don't know. I'm kind of tempted to get to Kyle Harrison here. Am I barking up the wrong tree? I know he's expensive. I get it. But it feels like he's just kind of being left for dead in this spot. We're not getting to a ton of him. I mean, I don't know. There's something about Kyle Harrison I kind of like today. The pitch count's been all over the place too, and that's weird. But like, I think he's riskier than those guys, but could pay off big time on a 7-game early slate. So I asked you guys who was the pitcher you'd like to get more of, or I gave you guys the pitcher I'd like to get a little bit more of. You guys can tell me who yours is as well. 1-1-2. I got so many McLean Harrison combos. Yeah, I don't hate it at all. Watch, I'm going to go overweight to Harrison. This will be the day Tatis homers. Just watch. This will be it. Raji, would Harrison Burrows with big bats, huge leverage thought? I mean, I don't think you really need to go both of them. Right? Like if you're trying to get leverage, your whole lineup doesn't need to be positively leveraged. And I think that's where, some people get themselves into trouble. It's like their whole lineup has, combined ownership of 50%. It's like, well, that doesn't really help. You could get different with one spot or one 4-man stack or one pitcher and get above the field there, or just get to a guy that no one's getting to. And that can change the whole, complexion of your lineup. Seeing some people having tons of Miami, your thought? Yeah, well, I get it. Miami's cheap. I mean, look here, let's do this. Okay. Let's go into the top stacks tool. Miami's got the 3rd highest value score on the slate. And yesterday the Sims were jamming a lot of them for good reason. They ended up, 9 runs. You needed some guys at the bottom of the order. You clearly needed Xavier Edwards too, who had multiple extra base hits. Houston against Luis Castillo is another one. They're not that expensive. Seattle against Mike Burrows. This is the most interesting one to me. How often do you see this? I'm going to tell you, not often, where the top value percentage goes to the team with the 2nd highest top stack probability. That's nuts. Now, yes, they're going to be owned, but so are all these other teams. St. Louis against the Athletics at Sutter Health Park. Very favorable hitters park. They're going to be popular. Miami's going to be popular against Zebby Matthews, which makes him a great leverage spot, one that we're getting to a lot of. That could be the leverage spot that either makes or breaks our day, and I'm willing to live with that. Seattle against Mike Burrows. They're getting ownership. Look, 9-9, 9-6, 9-5, 9% to the Athletics against McGreevy, 8 to Pittsburgh. There aren't really any teams that are just going completely ignored. As a matter of fact, the only team getting effectively no ownership as a stack is Detroit. Every other team is within 5% of each other. You go all the way down to Colorado at 5% against Karma Majinski, and then all the way up to St. Louis against Jacob Lopez. They're not even 5% separated from stack ownership. So to me, like, I think the leverage spots, definitely Seattle is a good leverage spot today against Burrows. Detroit's decent leverage, but that's against just a pitcher that's been really hard to hit. St. Louis is a good leverage spot. And you look at the stack score here. Seattle, number 1 against Burrows. St. Louis against Lopez. Like I said, there's some of the higher owned teams, but does it matter when every other team is basically in the same neighborhood as they are? Not really. Not really. So let's take a look at our stacks. Yeah, Seattle, just a ton of Seattle right now. We're like 55% Seattle stacks. Some Milwaukee, some Minnesota. Wow, we are overloading on Seattle right now. Look at that. 55% between 3, 4, and 5s. Minnesota, Milwaukee, Cincinnati. So I would not mind boosting Pittsburgh a bit. I'm with you guys on that. Pittsburgh to me feels like a team I'd want to boost. We're getting 5% Miami. I probably don't make any significant adjustments there. Houston against Luis Castillo doesn't look bad. The one spot we're getting a ton of is Seattle. Now, if you wanted to drop that down and set the exposure cap at like, just say 30% there, I'm not suggesting you do it, but if you wanted to within the Sims, you'd get more Minnesota against Braxton Garrett, who again was just recalled from AAA. Milwaukee. Okay. Houston against Castillo. Cincinnati being another spot there, going up against Griffin. So none of these teams really pop off. Like, they're not popping. I want to clear these exposures. One other thing I want to do for you guys is I want to go into lineups and just see what happens if we go with 4 uniques. How much randomness should you use? Randomness is honestly a preference thing, right? Like, when it comes to randomness, it's just you're randomizing some of the, where, like, if you had 0% randomness and say you were running like an optimizer, it's just going to jam chalk every single time. So like, you could build a core and at 0% randomness, if you finish that out, say you're using the single lineup simulator we have at 0% randomness, you're going to continuously get the same guys. If you run it at like 10 or 15% randomness, it's going to be different. And they're going to be more unique lineups for sure. Because if you're just running it with 0%, you're going to be getting a lot of the chalk, right? Because it's based off of projections. So yeah. Yeah. So everyone's saying don't play Cal Raleigh. Everyone told me the other day not to play Shohei Ohtani. And he ended up homering again. So, I don't know. I don't read too far into it because it's so hard for me to actually know whether it's true or not. If it comes back that he's hurt and there's this and that, it's like, all right, you guys were right. But the amount of times someone's tried to tell me a guy's hurt and then he goes out there and has like a 3 extra base hit game, whatever, and then they just get back to normal and then they're fine because baseball's 162 game season and guys go on in slumps and it just happens. It's just the way it is. Anyway, let's look at exposures here. I ran it on 4 uniques. Pitching doesn't really change, honestly. I kind of want to bump Harrison and see what happens. If I go to, oh, by the way, it's stacks. Does anything change? Seattle comes down a bit, but what happens if I were to bump Kyle Harrison and give him a bit of a boost here? Like, let's say I give him a 15% boost. Do we get a lot more of him or just a little bit more? We get 15%, pretty much with the field. I'm okay with that. Maybe I'm just completely reading this wrong, but it feels like this matchup against San Diego is actually pretty good. Cal's out. Yeah. Oh, did they pull him? Did they pull him for an injury yesterday? Because I'm saying people have been saying to me that he's playing hurt for a while now. Rosarania or Christian Walker? Is that? Hold on a second. I mean, I can tell you right now that Rosarania probably projects better. He projects at 8.03. And Christian Walker is 7.2. So, yeah, slightly better projection there. 6% ownership going to Walker. 9% to Randy. So not all that big of a difference there. The other thing we got to look at too, if you're talking about just the overall exposures and not just stack exposures, here's what we have. Herrera, 32%. Again, that's just such a good park. William Contreras. Okay. Victor Caratini, 15%. Mitch Garver, 15%. Josh Naylor, 47%. We've been getting to a lot of him lately. And I think some of that simply comes down to the fact that he's $3,700. And $3,700 and batting, what's he, third in the lineup today, right? With the platoon advantage against the righty. Josh Naylor at 3,700, whether he's been good or not, and for what it's worth, he has not been great lately. $3,700 batting third is really just a difficult spot to ignore. Nick Kurtz is really expensive, $5,500 against McGreevy, but we're getting 20% of him. Altuve against Castillo. It's amazing, man. Like, Castillo was a guy that you'd never really roster guys against until this year. Fernando Tatis against Harrison. Brendan Donovan, 43%. It is actually pretty remarkable how cheap Seattle is. And as you guys pointed out, thank you, there is no Cal Raleigh in the lineup today. The fact that there's no Raleigh in the lineup today, what was he? He tweaked something in his right side. Okay. Dude, the most expensive hitter for Seattle is $4,500. That's crazy. Crazy. Randy Rosarania is 4,300. Naylor's 37. Donovan's 37. Luke Raley's 36. Crawford's 34. These guys are so cheap. Mitch Garver's $2,400. I know he's batting towards the bottom of the lineup, but now it makes sense why these guys would be, popping up in the Sims. Especially if you're getting to a lot of Chase Burns and you're getting to a lot of McLean, it makes a lot of sense. 32% Ellie against Griffin. Mason Wynn, you're getting 17% of. Julio Rodriguez, 65%. That's crazy. But Julio, man, Julio's been swinging the bat well. He should be a little more expensive than that in this spot. Yordan Alvarez in that same game, 2,800 or 28%. So, yeah, this is pretty much what we're working with. And I don't know if there's anything that I want to change dramatically. Maybe get a little more Harrison. I don't want to bump guys like Griffin Canning or Lopez or Garrett. Certainly not Luis Castillo with the way he's pitched. I think Foster Griffin's a little bit harder to get to as well. I want to call him Forrest Griffin so bad. Majinski's not that bad, but you got a long relief guy. I'm wondering if props pop up for him, do we start to see, the projection change? I'll tell you right now. Let's see. Let's see if we've got any more here. Yeah, so we still have no projection on him. Or no props. I guess it makes sense though. Yeah, Zebby's at 4.5. So, I don't know. That's pretty much where we're at. Raleigh lost his footing late on a play late in the game. Probably leg or ankle, foot injury. Yeah, could be. We'll find out soon enough. But yeah, man, I think ultimately there's not really all that much that we're trying to get to, that, or me at least, that I'm not getting to right now. If I bump Harrison, get him to 15%, what does that do? I still get basically the same amount of Burns and McLean. I still get basically the same amount of Zeb Matthews, same amount of Chase Dollander. The only thing that happens is guys like Burrows and Majinski and Griffin and Castillo and all those guys just come down even further. And I'm all right with that. So you guys obviously make your own calls. Adjusting the Sims can be a problem sometimes. You go in and you like this spot and you're like, I should have just not touched it at all. But I do think this is a uniquely interesting spot for Harrison, because if what he's doing so far this season is legitimate and what the Padres are doing is legitimate and not in a good way, then this ends up looking like a much better matchup in hindsight. So it might just be a spot that we could jump on. Do we want to build one in the single lineup sim? I mentioned yesterday, we built one in the single lineup sim. I played it in the main and it came in, I think it was like 52nd. It ended up being a really nice lineup overall, a real nice lineup. So let's go ahead and build one out. Before we do that, I bet a ton of strikeouts today, home runs today. If you guys have Bet365 or DraftKings and none of these have moved yet, straight off the odds screen, I would go ahead and grab them. Jeff, look, I got negative CLV on Hunter Goodman and Jeffers. This is going to swing back the opposite direction. You're going to get better odds even than I got on both of those. Matt McLean, I got at plus 850. Jordan Walker at plus 390. Mark Vientos, that move, plus 573 to plus 510. Bryce Matthews, MJ Melendez. I bet a lot of homers today already. There were some really good ones popping up. And obviously, I'm just setting my own edge books right in here to get, sharp books and get the true odds. But I'll tell you, some of these are really going to work. Like, here you go. This one right here. Look where these other books are on Hunter Goodman. He's at 6-1. FanDuel's at plus 420. Bookmakers at plus 410. Circa's at plus 450. Bryce Matthews at plus 750. Bet365's out to lunch. They're asleep at the wheel right now on a lot of these props. MJ Melendez, plus 550. That's another one. Ryan Jeffers, I told you it moved against me at plus 650, but FanDuel's at plus 520. This is still a 12% edge on this one. Plus 529 on DraftKings. Bookmaker plus 497. Circa plus 485. Some spots that you absolutely would want to target if you can. Ellie's at plus 475 as well. FanDuel, far off from that. Plus 416 true odds. Bookmaker and Circa are in the mid threes. Use these tools to your advantage. You'll absolutely love them. And we do this every day in the snipe session. Not going to do it today, though, because all of the games will basically have been started already. Tomorrow, I'm going to bring it back tomorrow. Okay. I was sick for like a week. I was still doing these shows, but just super run down. I took off from the snipe session yesterday and then probably today as well, because there aren't going to be enough games and there's no NBA games either. But, you can still use the tools for yourself. I mean, you get a free week if you've never used them before. And if you have used them before, you still get 50% off your first week or month. Just go to oddshopper.com. Use Snipe50 when you check out any week or month. I'm telling you, it'll be the best money you spend this month. especially if you're a DFS player, because, there's so much volatility in DFS. When you go over here and you've got the arbitrage with the pregame and the live arbs, right? And then you've got portfolio EV with all the plus EV top-down bets plus the in-game bets. I don't know if anything's live now, but it could be tennis, it could be French hockey, could be EuroLeague, and the sick liquidity tool that a few of us designed over there. This is an awesome, awesome tool. You can see where all of the sharp money is. So instead of doing it on your own, you can spot sharp money, where they're creating arbitrage opportunities, or just trace the liquidity and grab the opposite side of what they're offering. It's so simple. And we lay it out for you. We tell you which side you want. Like this Jacob Lopez under 4.5 strikeouts today looks quite appetizing. So yeah, consider that. Snipe 50, baby. Come jump in. Join the Discord. A lot of sharp people talking in there every single day. Let's do the single lineup Sims before we head out for the day. What do you say? Should we build one for this main early slate? Start throwing out a few pitchers for me. Throw out a couple pitchers. Throw out some stacks, and we'll do it right here. Because to me, I would think the one spot many of us do agree on would be Nolan McLean. All right. Like Nolan McLean, probably, I think we can all agree on there. Buxton was scratched. All right, well, we'll update the tools, update the projections. We still got like 40 minutes until first pitch. Red Skittles, yo, congratulations, brother. Red Skittles saying, build me a St. Louis 5-man. That was Red Skittles yesterday, who took down the mini-max again and shouted out your boy. So I appreciate you for that. But it's the tools doing the heavy lifting. Dawn with the 20K yesterday. Cosmic taking third in the solo shot. It's a good day for the stochastic avatar. I'll go with a 5-man St. Louis. Sure, let's try a 5-man St. Louis build and see what happens. I'm with you on that. You double A, you said Burns and Matthews. How about this? Let's go McLean and Matthews since I already have him in there. By the way, both of these guys are going to look good. They're both projected very similarly, right? I mean, really similarly. Burns is projected for 18. Yeah, McLean's actually projected higher than him, and he's a little cheaper. We could try a St. Louis 5-man and see what happens. I'm actually excited about this. Herrera batting second. Let's plug him in there. Weatherholt batting leadoff. He's 5,400, but I think we'll be okay here. At first base, do we want Burleson? I mean, he's 4,700. Can we just make this like a Nolan Gorman's 3,500? You could go. We probably want to get Jordan. Can we get Jordan Walker in there too? The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The only problem here is it might be too chalky, but let's run it at like 15% randomness, large contest, 25% to first, and complete it and see what we get. Oh, I did it again. Dude, I can't. My fault. I keep doing that. I got to go to all matchups. There we go. We have 3 remaining. It gives us Julio Rodriguez, Brooks Lee, Brenton Doyle. We're going to run this sim. Large contest, 25% to first. We completed that with 15% randomness. Nolan McLean, Zebby Matthews, 26%. So actually not bad, not great. My guess, again, is because it gets real chalky running the 1 through 5. I think that just ends up being a very chalky build. So if I were to pull out like Gorman here, pull out Brooks Lee, and go with a 4-man, take McLean out, throw in Chase Burns, what happens here if we complete this 10% randomness this time? It gets us Spencer Steer over Doyle. We still have Rodriguez. Luis Rengifo is in there as well at 2,400. And we have a 4. Wait a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. We go to Mason Wynn. Okay. So we actually just replaced one for the other with St. Louis. Burleson's not in it. All right. Yeah. I mean, Jake, we updated this. So it'll update. All right. So Burleson's not in. We're clearly just going to update as these things come in. I can't check consistently the lineups, but if we take Burleson out of this one, he might, honestly, the guy might still pop up if I run this and try and optimize it. Now okay, this is going to look better. I already know. So here we go, guys. For those of you still hanging around, this is Chase Burns with Zebby Matthews, but then Herrera, Weatherholt, and it's a 2-man Seattle. A 3-man St. Louis, 3-man Seattle with Naylor, Donovan, and Rodriguez. That makes sense that they're given price points. Tyler Soderstrom for the Athletics. Altman batting 9th, assuming he's in the lineup. But that looks very different. No 4-man, no 5-man. You got a 3-2 stack there. And I think this, 39%. So a little bit better, but not amazing. If I just run this at 15% randomness, completely empty, what happens? Here's 15% randomness with nobody in it. McLean, Zebby, Herrera, Caratini, Altuve, Donovan, Ellie, Rodriguez, Rooker, and Soderstrom. So a bunch of 2-man stacks. That's what we're getting. Anyway, hey, you guys have a great rest of the day. Let's go take it down. As always, make sure, my friends, that you're rocking the Stochastic avatar. Stochastic.com/HOF or the link below. Use that wherever it is you play. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more and just tweet us your win at Stochastic HOF. Why? Well, pretty simple. Because if you do that, you get a free month of the Sims Max. Sims Max, any sport you want. You win twice in a calendar year, what happens? You get another free month of Sims Max plus a week of Sims Max of any other sport. Gold, Sims All Access Max for the entirety of the month. And then the Ring of Honor for those of you guys with any 20K plus win. My kids always mess with this one, but it's pretty sweet. The ring spinning display case, commemorate that win, baby, with your name on there, the win, how much you won, when you won it. Put that on your desk. No one's ever going to fuck with you again. I'll tell you that much. I'll see you back here for the next one, guys. Have a great day. We'll close out the week tomorrow. Bye-bye.